So YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. So today guys, we are going to showcase the Super Heavy Samurai in YugiOh Omega. Now, we already got word from Triple Tactics Tim and DK that there are a couple of new archetypes that's going to be added by January. That would be, what's the other name for that archetype? The Nemleria, the Transcend cards, that's for the Dino support, and the new supports for the Super Heavy Samurai. Now, the three archetypes, what we're going to talk about today is the Super Heavy Samurai cards that are a really interesting bunch that we will get for Master Duel. So, without further ado, let's go into the core deck list for the Super Heavy Samurais and what you'll need for the deck. So here we are guys for the core deck list that you'll need for the Super Heavy Samurai deck. Typically, you will have like a 20 to 21 cards, give or take. I think the only thing here that is optional that you want to add for the deck is the copy of Samurai Soul Horns. But you do need a copy of Soul Gaia Booster. This is a really good level 4 that you can summon to the field. Regardless, it's your choice on the Soul Horns, but the Gaia Booster, it's kind of necessary. Another thing for the deck basically is if this is going to be implemented in Master Duel, there are two things that I want you to take note. First and foremost, Maxi is eligible in Master Duel, so typically being a combo deck for the Super Heavy Samurai, this deck is going to have a hard time like comboing it off. Second problem for this deck is if you're going up against Kashtiras and they are going first, then basically it's going to be hard for you to actually perform really well. Kashtiras, as you might know, they can just lock one zone up in the Pendulum zone. So basically you cannot Pendulum summon, which is kind of necessary for this deck to actually perform. Also, if they summon the Arise Art on the field, most of your cards that are center graveyard is banished instead, so there's no way that you can revive back the copy of Motorbike, which is kind of necessary if you're summoning a copy of Sprite Elf to the field. Regardless, those are the two main issues that you want to take note if this archetype or these supports are going to be added into Master Duel. Another thing to take note for this deck as well is there will be no spell and traps within this deck because Super Heavy Samurais capitalizes on no spell and traps for their effects. Another thing that you can take note for this deck as well is there are like 4 combo starters for the deck if ever you're going first. So there are like the Motorbike, which allows you to garner a copy of Prodigy. So the Motorbike will be discarded from your hand to the graveyard, add 1 Prodigy, and this is basically a 1-card starter or a 1-card combo. Also, Soul Piercer, like I said earlier, is also a 1-card starter. You summon Soul Piercer to the field and link it up to a copy of Scarecrow, and then you're still gonna be doing some combos with it. And lastly, a copy of Wagon or summon the Wagon. It will be shifted to a defense position, and then you change that one to attack position to add 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand. So basically, that's it. Those are the 1-card starters that you basically need for the deck. 3 copies of Soul Piercer. The Soul Piercer is not a hard or a soft once per turn. As long as this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add another Super Heavy Samurai from your deck to your hand. The Wagon, once it changes its battle position from defense to attack, you can add 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster. The copy of the Samurai Scales is just on 1 copy and 1 copy alone. This can be spell summoned with the help of the Soul Peacemaker. Then the Samurai Scales will spell summon 1 monster from your graveyard, which is a Super Heavy Samurai name, and then spell summon it to the field. The 1 copy of the Soul Gaia Booster, like I said earlier, the Gaia Booster is kind of necessary for the deck because you can equip this one to 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster, and that monster will be treated as a tuner. Also, this can be spell summoned to the field after being equipped to a Super Heavy Samurai monster, and that is an additional level 4 fodder that you can go for an Exi summon, or if you have a level 4 tuner monster, you can go for a level 8 synchro summon. The 3 copies of Motorbike, you need to max that one out or this one out because this is a soft once per turn. So additional copies on the field can actually increase or modify the levels of the monster and increase it to 2, thus allowing you to scale from a typical Super Heavy Samurai 8 into a 10 or a 12. So we'll talk about the synchro monsters in a bit. But yeah, 3 copies for the Samurai Motorbike. The 1 copy or the 0 to 1 copy of the Soul Horns, kind of necessary for the build. Same effect as the Gaia Booster, but I do prefer going with the Gaia Booster because this is a level 4 monster. The 3 copies of your Soul Peacemaker, like I said earlier, you can just tribute a equipped monster and then spell summon 1 Super Heavy Samurai from your deck to the field. The 2 copies of the Monk Big Benkai, this one allows you to add one Super Heavy Samurai from your deck to your hand, as long as you have a Super Heavy Samurai that is face up in the field. Typically, this will combo it off with a copy of Prodigy in the field or in the Pendulum Zone. So Prodigy is always going to be on 3 copies because this is your 1-card starter or 1-card combo. Now, there are some issues as well with the Super Heavy Samurais. There are a couple of cards that will lock you into Super Heavy Samurais once you use their effects as a monster. So there is the Prodigy, the Transporter, the Thief, the Fist, the Big Waraji, and the Trumpeter. But if Prodigy is in the Pendulum Zone, you won't be locked into the Super Heavy Samurai archetype. So that's still really good. And then the 1 copy of the General Coral from a copy of your Ancient Gear box. So that is basically the main deck, guys. For the extra deck, you'll be using the Brave Masurawu, which is once per turn, if your opponent activates a spell or track, you can draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So basically, this is a really good refresher if you have no cards on hand, typically. 1 copy of the Chain King. The effects is still insanely good. So once per turn, you can discard up to 2 cards, then target that many cards your opponent controls, destroy them. So it's a really good pop though. Regardless, you just need 1 copy for this. 1 copy of your Ninja Saratobi. Now this is a really good card as well. So once per turn during either player's turn, if you have no spell trappers in your graveyard, you can target 1 spell trapper on the field, destroy it, inflict 500 damage to your opponent's life point. The 2 copies of your Scarecrow. Now Scarecrow, basically it's up to you if you want to run like 3 copies of this, but just having 2 copies is kind of okay for the deck because basically you'll need more space in your extra deck for Exi Summon, Link monsters, and even your Synchro monsters. So I think that's basically it for the main or the core deck list for the Super Heavy Samurai deck. Now let's go towards the deck list that I prepared for Master Duel. So here we are with the deck list that you'll basically need for Master Duel. And just to take note, this will eventually change once it's going to be released into the game, of course. Like I said earlier, we are not running spell and traps, so basically we'll just be running hand traps, which is kind of necessary for the deck. 2 Gammas, 2 copies of the Drill and Lockbird, 3 copies of Effect Veiler, which is kind of necessary. 3 copies of Maxi, of course. Board Breaker, you have the 2 copies of Gamma Seal. An additional Omni Negate, which is the King Regulus. 1 copy of your Ancient Gear box as your engine. So if you summon a copy of your Ballista to the field, it will gain access to a copy of Gear box. Gear box will add a copy of, where was that card? The General Coral from your deck to your hand once the gearbox is added. For the extra deck, you'll be using 1 Bar on the Floor, 1 copy of Borrowload Savage Dragon, 1 copy of Axel Synchro that you can summon your Stardust Dragon to the field and then go into a level 10 Synchro monster. 1 copy of your Gear Giant X, really good XZ monster. 1 copy of number 41 Baguska because super heavy, it can just attack in defense position, so that's really insane. 1 copy of your Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, 1 copy of Appaloosa because these cards can actually spam the board. 1 copy of your Genius, 1 copy of your Gear Ballista to add your copy of your Gear Box, 1 copy of Sprite Elf just to spell summon your Motorbike from your graveyard to your field. And then the 2 copies of your Samurai Scarecrow. I think that's basically it. All of the cards here are gonna change once it's gonna be released in Master Duel, of course, but this is just a quick showcase that I want to show to you guys on how the deck works. But anyways, that is the deck profile for the core and the deck list for Master Duel. So let's go for the gameplay showcase. Alright guys, so here we are with the gameplay showcase with the deck, and like I said, Prodigy is always gonna be your starting card for your combo. So this is a 1-card combo also, so the other 4s is basically other cards that you can use later along the line. But we got a really good starting hand. 1 copy of your Soul Piercer and a copy of your Wagon, so we don't need to search the Wagon later. And also a copy of Soul Piercer. So let's just say that you only have a copy of Prodigy on hand, so we'll use this card's effect. So there we go. Use that card effect, get a copy of the Big Bankai to your Pendulum Zone, and then spell summon the Prodigy in defense position. Now, you don't want to use the effect of Prodigy because this will lock you into Super Heavy Samurai monsters only. For now, we go for the effect of Big Bankai since we have a face-up Super Heavy Samurai on the field. Gaining a copy of either the Soul Piercer, since we already have the Soul Piercer, that's still really good. We can search this card here. What we can do at the moment is just gain access to the Soul Gaia booster, which we can just use later. So normal summon our Soul Piercer to the field. Link that off into copy of the Scarecrow. Now take note, you don't want to occupy this slot here that the Scarecrow is pointing to, because that is where the monster will be summoned. So we gain access to one Wagon. Since we already have one copy of Wagon, we don't need to do anything else. Just we go for the copy of the other Super Heavy Samurai monster that you can just go for a follow-up next turn. Regardless, use the effect here of the Scarecrow. Discard one card and then spell summon one Super Heavy Samurai. So you can just discard the Wagon and then spell summon the Wagon to the field. That way it will be in defense position. Now you don't want to use the Wagon's effect just yet. After it's summoned, then you'll use the effect. So at this point, you can use the effect of Wagon here. Change it to attack position and then add one card. Since we already got a copy of Soul Piercer here, we can go for a copy of Soul Peacemaker. The Soul Peacemaker can be attached into one Super Heavy Samurai monster. So we'll attach that one to the Scarecrow. Since Scarecrow cannot be used as a link material, we can just remove that one from the extra monster zone. So use the effect of the Soul Peacemaker. Send that one to the graveyard, and once that is in the graveyard, you can spell summon the Scales or the Samurai Scales. And once the Samurai Scales is special summoned, you can spell summon one monster from the graveyard, so we can target a copy of Soul Piercer. Like I said earlier, Soul Piercer is not a soft or hard once per turn, so that's insanely good. And now we can go for our Ballista here. There we go. So chain link 1 for Ballista, gaining access to the gearbox, and the Soul Piercer will gain access to, at this point, we can go with a copy of Motorbike here or the other cards, but go for Motorbike since we need level 2s that we can send to the graveyard for our elf. So we go for Gearbox here, and since Gearbox is added by effect, we can add another card that has 500 attack or defense. So that's your only target here is the General Coral. So at this point, you want to have the Prodigy in your extra deck face up. So we can go for Link Summon this one with the Ballista. There we go. And then use the effect of, where's that? The Coral in the Pendulum Zone. So you have 1 and 8. So we Pendulum Summon right here. So spell summon the Prodigy, spell summon the Bike, spell summon the Gearbox, and a copy of the Booster. So spell summon that one here, and lastly here. So once the two monsters are summoned on the arrows that Genius is pointing to, we can gain access to one level 5 or higher machine monsters. So that is basically a copy of Regulus to our hand. So at this point, this is your board after you manage to use the effect of the one copy of Prodigy. And then at this point, it's either you want to go for Baron the Floor, other level 8s that you have in your extra deck, go for Link Summons, like your copy of Appaloosa, or a copy of Underworld, or a copy of Baguska. Either way, it's still perfectly fine. For this point, I just want to showcase this deck out. Let's go for a copy of... you know what? Let's go for the effect of Motorbike first. Increase one Super Heavy Samurai's level to, or increase it to 2. So we have a 6. Let's go for Axel Synchron here. This one, and then a copy of this. Axel Synchron is going to be summoned to the field. Now we have a Stardust Dragon in our graveyard, so we can just use the effect of Axel in our opponent's turn. Summon the Axel again. So at this point, we can just go with increase another monster in the field by 2. Let's go for Borreload. There we go. And since Borreload is there, we can use the effect of Borreload. And at this point, we can go with Sprite Elf. There we go. Use the effect of Sprite Elf. Summon that one there to the field. We can go with Baron the Floor here. It's not really a problem. Let's see. Go for 8. I think we can go still on Baron the Floor. Increases 1 to level 8. And yeah, we can still go for Baron the Floor. There we go. And lastly with that, we still have our Regulus summoned to the field. Which we'll attach a copy of Soul Piercer here. No, I think that was a misplay, but nevertheless, like I said, it's up to you if you want to destroy the Soul Piercer. Yeah, I think that's basically it. So that's end our turn. So we have one interruption, one access to Sprite Elf for the motorbike, two Omni Negates, or three Omni Negates for that matter, and one Maxi, one Drill and Lockbird. So that's insanely good for our hand. But like I said, like we have like, you can go also with a Palooza here, which is a monster negate. It's perfectly fine. But yeah, let's play this one out. He will Harpy Spinner Duster. We can go with a copy of Warlord here. Then chain with a copy of this. Summon our motorbike to the field. I don't think we'd have a level 10 here though. We don't have a level 10. I should have gone with a level 10 monster, which is Shang Ying. Regardless, it's perfectly fine. That was a tiny misplay on my part. It's gonna attack my monster. Don't really care. We're here. So our turn, use the effect, pop the back row. Increase the level of one monster. I think I'm just gonna increase the level of this monster here. So that's a level 4. We can go for a level 8 here, which is kind of good. And there we go, insanely good. We use the effect of Soul Horns attached to one monster here. Go for battle phase, attack twice. There we go. You can just attack directly. That's really insane. So attack twice during the same battle phase. And we have more than lethal for this one. So attack bar on the floor, the Regulus, and a copy of Borrowed Savage, which is game. So I think that's basically it. That's a showcase on how this new card is going to be in Master Duel. I hope you enjoy this kind of content. We'll talk about the other archetypes later along the line. But anyways, that is me for today. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.